Hey, my fellow minor league nerds, and welcome to part 2 of our look at the history of professional baseball in Raleigh, North Carolina. Just like part 1, this episode is honoring our fellow Curved Brim media member Ed Rivera of the Dad Hat Chronicles. This episode covers 1958 to 1971. For the 1957 season, the Carolina League operated with only 6 teams after the Wilson Tobbs and the Fayetteville Highlanders both folded before the season. The league would add 2 new teams for the 1958 season. One was placed in Burlington, North Carolina, that would play as the Alamance or Burlington Indians, Alamance being the county in which Burlington is located. The other team was placed in the North Carolina State Capitol, once again adopting the name the Capitals, signing a working agreement with the Boston Red Sox. Their first season wasn't anything to get excited over. They finished in 6th place with a 63-73 record. Their top hitter was catcher Bob Tillman, who hit .282 with 18 home runs and 76 RBIs, while Tracy Stellard was their top pitcher, finishing with a 9-6 record. The team's low point came on July 27th when their pitching gave up 7 home runs to the Wilson Tobbs, who relocated there from Kinston, where they had played as the Eagles, in the middle of the previous season. They were the only Carolina League franchise to ever move in the middle of the season. In 1959, the Carolina League dropped back to 6 teams when both the High Point Thomasville High Toms and the Danville Leafs, an original charter franchise, both folded due to their inability to maintain their major league affiliation. The Capitals started off slow, getting hot in late May. They had one of the most intriguing collections of players in league history. Pitcher Warren Hodgdon won his first 9 decisions to carry the pitching staff early. He ended up with a 13-5 record. Future major leaguer Bill Spanswick missed the first month of the season with an injury, but pitched effectively once he got underway, finishing the season 15-4. In the middle of the season, recent University of Michigan graduate Dick Raditz joined the team. He was so fearful as a fastball pitcher that he eventually acquired the nickname the Monster. Bill Tench, who pitched for the Capitals in 1958, began the 1959 season with Allentown in the Eastern League, but was demoted back to Raleigh due to control problems. In his first 2 starts back with the Caps, he struck out 34 batters. On June 3rd, he struck out 19 Tobbs batters in a 4-hit, 3-0 win, while also walking 9, showing that he still had control issues. On the offensive side, third baseman Tom Agosta hit .314, first baseman Hal Holland and outfielder George Lewis each hit .302. But the team's real star was 19-year-old Carl Yastrzemski, who was playing in his first professional season. He was signed by the Red Sox after briefly attending Notre Dame on a basketball scholarship. Boston touted him as their best prospect in years, comparing him to Ted Williams. It was not an exaggeration. He dominated the Carolina League that season, batting .377 with 15 home runs, 100 RBIs, and 34 doubles. But he also committed 45 errors at second, seeing him move to the outfield in 1960. At the end of May and into June, the Caps put together a 14-game winning streak to move within 2 games of the first-place Tobbs. On June 12th, they beat Wilson 8-7, seeing Yaz go 5 for 5. By June 26th, they were in a first-place tie with the Tobbs. The Greensboro Yankees became a nemesis for the Red Sox affiliate in July. On the 1st of that month, they defeated the Capitals 9-7 thanks to an 8th inning inside-the-park grand slam by Don Locke. The loss ended Raleigh's 18-game home winning streak. It also ended Yaz's 17-game hitting streak. On July 10th, the Capitals were swept by the Yankees in a doubleheader to fall one game behind Wilson. They then went on a 5-game losing streak thanks to the collapse of their bullpen. Through the rest of the month, Raleigh and Wilson traded first place with the Durham Bulls on their heels. On July 23rd, Raleigh was no-hit by Rob Veal of the Greensboro Yankees, seeing him strike out 14 and walking 9. He fanned Yastrzemski 3 times in the game. He beat Raleigh again on August 2nd, which helped Wilson retake first place. The Caps then went on a hot streak, winning 8 straight to take over first place and start pulling away. On August 12th, an 8-4 victory over Veal and the Yankees gave them a 5-game lead, with them ending the season with a 78-52 record, 6.5 games in front of the Wilson Tops. The start of the Capitals' postseason series against the Winston-Salem Red Sox was delayed by 4 days due to rain. In response, League President Bill Jessup reduced their series from a best-of-5 to a best-of-3, with Raleigh sweeping the Redbirds in 2. In the championship series, Raleigh lost the first 2 games in Wilson 4-3 and 10 and 5-4, seeing Game 2 rained out 3 different times. Game 3 was played at Devereaux Meadow and was a tense pitching duel. In the 6th, with the game still scoreless, Dick Raditz attempted a sacrifice bunt with men on first and second and no outs. Wilson let the pop bunt drop and turned it into a double play. Raleigh's manager, Ken Deal, stormed out of the dugout arguing incorrectly that the infield fly rule should have been called. Deal was ejected by umpire Richard Power, at which point the Caps' first baseman Hal Holland jumped into the argument. He was known for losing his temper, which may have been why he never made it to the majors, and was also ejected. But instead of heading into the clubhouse, he decided to go into the stands and began berating League President Bill Jessup. This led to fights between the fans of the 2 teams breaking out in the stands. Several fans were ejected, including a friend of Jessup's who was just trying to protect him. Fighting continued sporadically throughout the game. One fight involved the Tob's second baseman, Maurice Lerner, who accidentally threw a ball into the stands, getting into a fight with a fan when he went to retrieve it. As the game went on, players on both teams disputed practically every call, with the game remaining scoreless as it went into the 9th. Wilson broke the game open by scoring 5 runs in the top of the inning. First baseman Dean Roberts, who came in after Holland was ejected, made an error that allowed 2 runs to score. After the game, umpire Richard Powers was attacked by Capitals fans, drawing blood, necessitating a police escort to get him out of the ballpark. Deal and Holland were both fined $50 by Jessup the following day. Wilson completed a 4-game sweep after winning Game 4 1-0 behind a one-hitter thrown by Tom Butters, who later became a successful athletic director at Duke University. Following the Carolina League Championship Series, Yastrzemski was promoted to the AAA Minneapolis Millers of the American Association, where he was ruled eligible for the postseason, helping the Millers win the League Championship Series to advance to the Junior World Series, where they fell to the Havana Sugar Kings. You can learn more about that series by checking out our Franchise History Series episode about the Sugar Kings if you haven't done so already. The Capitals began the 1960 season by winning 14 of their first 18 games. Dick Raditz struck out 18 Winston-Salem Redbirds on April 28th. On May 20th, he beat Wilson 7-3, striking out 16 to lead Raleigh to a 21-7 record. Much of the team's early offense support came from Mike Page, who batted over .400 well into May. Greensboro kept pressure on the Capitals, ending May only 1 game behind Raleigh, while the other 4 teams in the league were under .500. The 2 teams traded first place for the first half of June, with Greensboro taking over for good on the 15th. They increased their lead after sweeping the Caps on June 16th, 17th, and 18th, eventually winning the first half title by 5.5 games, with the league adopting a split-season format for the season. The Capitals started the second half with a 9-3 start, but fell out of contention after losing several players to AAA Minneapolis and Single-A Allentown. The highlight of the team's second half was Warren Hodgson throwing a no-hitter against the Greensboro Yankees in the first game of a doubleheader on the final day of the season. The Caps would win the second game 13-9. They finished that half in last place with a 28-38 record, going 70-65 overall. The Yankees would win the league championship series after defeating the Alamance Indians 4-1. In 1961, the American League added 2 teams, with the National League doing the same in 1962. This expansion led to some affiliation changes in the Carolina League. Boston moved their affiliation over to Winston-Salem, where they would stay through the 1984 season, with the Capitals teaming up with the brand new New York Mets, who would begin play in 1962. It was not a good season in the North Carolina capital. The team's general manager, Herb Brett, attempted to compensate for the team's lack of talent by hiring Enos Slaughter, who had just finished his Hall of Fame playing career in 1959 as the team's manager. His team started off slow, putting together a 7-game winning streak in the middle of May before fading out of first half contention. In the second half, they started off hot, going 10-6, seeing a 21-12 victory over the Greensboro Yankees on July 2nd. July saw an extremely close pennant race, with only a game and a half separating first place Raleigh from last place Alamance. August 14th saw 2 spectacular pitching performances from Raleigh during a doubleheader against Greensboro. In Game 1, Tracy Rivers threw a no-hitter, with Chuck Lloyd throwing a 1-hitter in Game 2. Things went downhill after that, with the team hitting rock bottom 10 days later when they fell 13-2 to Wilson, committing 8 errors in the game. The Tobs scored 8 runs on 2 hits in the 8th inning. They would commit 5 errors the next day in a 7-3 loss to the Tobs, who would win the league championship after winning both halves of the season. The Capitals finished in last place in both halves, finishing 58-80 overall. For 1962, the Capitals switched affiliations, leaving the expansion Mets and teaming up with the equally hapless expansion Washington Senators. The Carolina League also added 2 new teams, one in Rocky Mount and another in Kinston. It was another terrible season for Raleigh, seeing them finish in last place with a 56-84 record. Some highlights that season were a 25-11 victory over the Greensboro Yankees on June 17th. The 2 teams faced off again on the 30th, seeing Greensboro jump out to a 9-0 lead. In the top of the 4th, Raleigh sent 16 hitters to the plate, scoring 10 runs. Greensboro, though, would come back to win 16-11. On July 28th, they would defeat Greensboro 16-0, with Juan Gomez throwing a no-hitter in his first appearance with the team after being promoted from Pensacola of the Alabama-Florida League. He struck out 11 while walking 3. John Kennedy went 4 for 4 with 5 RBIs in the game. 1963 saw many changes in the Carolina League and minor league baseball in general. The league added 2 more teams, becoming a 10-team circuit, splitting into 2 divisions. The 2 teams were placed in the growing Tidewater area of Virginia, with the Peninsula Senators playing in the Newport News, Hampton area, while the Tidewater Tides operated out of Portsmouth. Also that season, a new agreement between Major League Baseball and Minor League Baseball came into force, seeing MILB rearranged into AAA, AA, Single-A, and rookie classifications, with the Carolina League becoming a Class A circuit. Raleigh also saw changes as they affiliated once again with the New York Mets, abandoning the Capitals name and changing it to the Raleigh Mets. Other than having 2 former big league pitchers, Sherman Roadblock Jones and Bob Moorhead, who were both trying to recover from sore arms, the parent club did not supply much talent to Raleigh, who saw their attendance drop to a league low of 34,309. The team's stockholders were exhausted by the club's continual deficits. In June, team president Tom Gaddy informed the Mets that the local investors were done with the team on July 1st unless the Mets supplied better players. On June 18th, he offered to turn over operations to anyone in Raleigh debt-free if they were to keep the club in the city. League president Bill Jessup stated that there was a city who was interested in the team if no one stepped up in Raleigh. They would end up being purchased by brothers Earl and Garland Jones, who owned a slaughterhouse and sausage company. Both had previously held leadership roles with earlier Capitals clubs. The team's highlight of the season came on July 6th when Mets pitcher Grover Powell squared off against Louis Tiant of the Burlington Indians. It turned out to be the league's best pitching duel of the season. The game was scoreless after 8, with Powell working on a one-hitter. The Indians scored a pair of unearned runs in the top of the ninth to win 2-0. Both ended up only giving up 3 hits each, with Tiant striking out 8 and Powell fanning a dozen. The Mets finished in last place in the West Division with a 62-82 record. Raleigh once again changed its affiliation before the start of the 1964 season, this time teaming up with the St. Louis Cardinals, changing their name to the Raleigh Cardinals, and were managed by George Kissel. The team's offense was led by third baseman Jose Coco Laboy, who hit .340 with 24 home runs and 74 RBIs, as well as outfielder Ed Chastain, who finished with a .257 average, 28 home runs, and 90 RBIs. Their pitching staff was carried by Don Hagen, who went 16-7, and Ron Kale, who finished 15-7. Hagen had 15 strikeouts in the Cardinals' 2-0 win over the Winston-Salem Red Sox on August 4th, giving up only 6 hits. The Cardinals stayed in the race for the division title through July, suffering 2 setbacks when pitcher Ron Willis, who was 9-1, suffered a back injury, and shortstop Ed Pacheco was promoted to Tulsa in the Texas League. He hit .392 in 25 games for the Cardinals after being promoted from the Rock Hill Cardinals of the Western Carolina League, where he began the season. They finished in third place with a 76-62 record, 5.5 games behind the eventual league champions, the Winston-Salem Red Sox. 1965 saw a losing record as they remained affiliated with St. Louis and were managed by Ray Hathaway. They finished in fourth place with a 64-79 record. They were no hit by Juan Quintana of the Durham Bulls in the first game of a doubleheader on July 16th. It was his first start after being sent over from the Amarillo Sonics of the Texas League. The best player to come out of Raleigh during the Cardinals era was pitcher Mike Torres, who finished 4-8 with a 4.79 ERA in 94 innings pitched over 18 starts. He would make his MLB debut in September 1967, having an 18-year career with 8 different teams. 1966 saw the Carolina League expand, adding the Lynchburg White Sox. However, another team was not added, leaving the league to play with 11 teams. This led to an interesting solution called the mixed doubleheader. It saw a home team play the first game of a doubleheader against one team and the second game against a different one. This left the other 8 teams to play a more conventional 4-game series. Fans did not like the mixed doubleheader as the league's attendance dropped by over 80,000. Raleigh switched affiliations once again, teaming up with the Pittsburgh Pirates, changing their name to the Raleigh Pirates. They only drew 25,562 fans that season, the second lowest in the league. Those who did show up, though, got to see future major leaguers Manny Sanguillen, who hit .328, and Al Oliver, who hit .299 with 10 homers and 57 RBIs. They were later joined by Gene Garber. The Pirates started off 15-5, but were unable to maintain the momentum when they stopped hitting in May, losing 9 straight and 18 of 21. They managed to turn things around somewhat in August, winning 8 in a row to pull within 2 games of first place Winston-Salem. They were unable to catch the Red Sox, falling out of the race after Sanguillen was promoted to the AAA Columbus Jets. They finished the season in third place in the West with a 71-66 record. In what would be the Pirates' last season in 1967, the Carolina League added a 12th franchise when the Asheville Tourists moved down from the AA Southern League. This saw Raleigh switch over to the East Division. The team got hot in July, passing the Wilson Tobbs to take over first place. They were managed by future Boston Red Sox manager Joe Morgan and were led by future major leaguers Don Money, Gene Garber, Richie Hebner, Al Oliver, Angel Mangual, and Gene Clines. Harold Clem led the pitching staff, finishing 15-3 with a 1.64 ERA. In the middle of July, the Portsmouth Tides took over first place, with the two teams trading off the lead for the rest of the month. They lost Richie Hebner for the season when he broke his wrist, while hot-hitting Duncan Campbell broke a finger. In August, the Pirates took over first place for good when the Tides lost 6 in a row, and the Pirates went on a 17-6 run. On August 9th, they swept Burlington in a doubleheader, 6-0 and 6-3. In the first game, they pulled off a league record 7 double plays, making the achievement in just 7 innings. On August 20th, a fully recovered Campbell hit 3 home runs in an 11-6 win over Wilson. The Pirates won the division with a 77-65 record. The league expanded the playoffs to 8 teams for the season, with the first round consisting of just 1 game. Harold Clem would pitch a gem, leading the Pirates to a 1-0 win over the Rocky Mount Leafs to face the Portsmouth Tides in the next round. The Pirates would go no further as they were swept in 2 games, losing the second game due to 4 unearned runs in the 5th. After the season, the Pittsburgh Pirates pulled their affiliation from Raleigh, moving over to the brand new Salem Rebels, who still exist today as the Salem Red Sox. The Raleigh franchise had not drawn well for years, leading to them being short on cash. The Durham Bulls, who were affiliated with the New York Mets, would end up purchasing the team, merging the 2 clubs, adopting the name the Raleigh-Durham Mets. They would split their home games between Durham Athletic Park in Durham and Devereaux Meadow in Raleigh for the 1968 season. They would advance to the Carolina League Championship Series, where they would be swept in 2 by the High Point Thomasville High Toms. They would play as the Raleigh-Durham Phillies in 1969 after teaming up with Philadelphia, finishing in second place in the East Division with a 79-62 record, defeating the Burlington Senators in the League Championship Series 2-1. 1970 and 71 would see them play as an independent, being known as the Raleigh-Durham Triangles, finishing 77-63 in the split 1970 season and 56-80 in the 1971 season. As mentioned earlier, attendance had always been an issue for the Capitals when they returned in 1958. Their best drawing season was in 1964, when 52,620 fans came out, with 1966 being the lowest, when only 25,562 showed up at Devereaux Meadow. Over the 10 seasons, their average attendance was 38,396 a year. Things were better when they were purchased by their Durham rivals and merged into one team, averaging 48,920 over their 4 seasons. But that number covers both Durham Athletic Park and Devereaux Meadow, as we were unable to find individual figures for each season. The lack of fan support finally caught up with them when in January 1972, team president Mike May announced that they had lost too much money over the years and were in jeopardy. He attempted to find a local investor to save the team, but came up empty, with them eventually shutting down. Raleigh has not hosted another professional team of its own since, seeing Devereaux Meadow torn down in 1979. But there is currently a movement to bring a major league team to the city, with the Capitals being one of the possible name choices. Durham wouldn't see another pro team until 1980, which would take the name the Durham Bulls, becoming the Myrtle Beach Pelicans in 1999, making way for the AAA Durham Bulls. Well, my fellow minor league nerds, that'll do it for our look at the history of professional baseball in Raleigh, North Carolina. Be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel or the podcast platform of your choice to be notified whenever a new episode is uploaded. And until next time, stay safe and be sure to never stop supporting minor league baseball and never stop learning about minor league baseball history.
This podcast is part of the Curved Brim Media Network. Here are some of the other members of Curved Brim Media.
Hi, this is Ed Rivera of the Dad Hat Chronicles. Join me as I interview people just like you and players, coaches, GMs on the path that led you to become a fan of the sport.
I'm Paul Caputo, and on the Baseball by Design podcast, I talk to minor league baseball teams, designers, and other super interesting people about what these minor league baseball logos mean, and I talk a little bit about ice cream helmets.
What's up, Bucketheads? I'm Anna DiTomaso, and each week on the Baseball Bucket List podcast, I speak with a different fan about their favorite baseball memories, what the game means to them, and what's left to check off on their baseball bucket list.
Hey everyone, it's Eric from the great state of Kansas.
This is Johnny from the New Orleans Baby Cakes Memorial Museum.
And we are the Earn Fun Average podcast,
where we talk to a variety of guests about their love of baseball and have fun doing it.
America, lower your standards.
Average is what we do best.
This is Patrick and Corey of BaseballMapper.com, and we have made an interactive map to help highlight all baseball teams from the majors down to collegiate summer leagues.
We want to bring you closer to baseball, so get on the site and find a team near you today.
Hey guys, this is Patrick Larson from the Minor League Baseball Hat History Series, and in every episode I go through the history of minor league teams through my personal collection of hats. You can find me on Twitter at @PatLarson1. I hope you guys enjoy.
Learn more about Curved Brim Media at curvedbrimmedia.com.